Today's video is going to discuss chapter 1.6, relations. So thinking about that word relations, what we're going to be talking about is the relationship between the x value and the y value. I'm going to use the book to start off. If you can see example 1, we're going to talk about 4 different ways that you could show this relationship. The first is actually listed in the problem, and that is as ordered pairs. So you can see the x comma y. You also could create a table using those ordered pairs, putting the x and the y. You also could have a horizontal table as opposed to the vertical table that they have. Another way you could show those ordered pairs, or the relation, is this graph, right? And then you would graph it, x comma y, keeping in mind that you do the x value first and then the y value. And then the final way, and I believe this is new for most of you, is mapping. And notice that they're calling the x in this domain, and the y would be range. Now the other thing I want you to notice is the arrows link the x value to the y value. So it'd be really important to use those arrows. All right, I also want to discuss 2 different types of variables, and you've probably spoken about these in science: the independent variable and the dependent variable. And so the independent variable is the variable that determines the output. Keeping in mind the output is the y value. So your independent variable is x, and your dependent variable depends on the value of the independent variable, which is the x. So this is your y value. So this is my x value, and this is my y value. Keep in mind the dependent variable, particularly as you're talking about science, is typically the value that you're studying. It's the variable that you're interested in measuring. The independent variable at times is one that you don't have control over, whereas the dependent variable we're trying to figure out what's going on in terms of our experiment. All right, let's practice this. I'm going to do the first one, and then I'm going to have you try the second one. So the first one, the air pressure inside a tire increases with temperature. So the question is, does the air pressure depend upon the temperature, or does the temperature depend upon the air pressure? And so this variable, the air pressure, depends upon the temperature. So this would be my independent variable, and this would be my dependent variable. Sorry, that should be a D. All right, now you try this one. The water level of the river decreases as the amount of rain decreases. Please pause the video at this time to practice this problem. All right, so my 2 variables are the water level of the river and the amount of rain. So the question is, does the water level of the river depend upon the amount of rain, or does the amount of rain depend upon the water level of the river? And this will depend upon how much it rains. Sorry, that's outside the screen. All right, and finally I want to practice reading a graph with you. Keep in mind there are no numbers on the graph, so we're just interested in telling the story. This graph obviously tells distance as it relates to time. And so the question is, what is happening in each of these segments? And you can see that there are essentially 3 different parts of this graph. So at this point, we're at a complete stop. They are traveling at a constant rate going up until they get to this point. Now at this point they have stopped, because they are no longer adding any distance, so they are not moving. So some people might say they stopped for lunch, got a flat tire, whatever it might be. And then they continued at this point, for whatever reason, they continue moving again at a constant rate. Now there's one thing that I want you to see. If I were to take this, and I were to change this so it no longer is distance, but instead now, sorry, I can't write sideways and upside down. Instead of being distance, now we changed it to speed. Apparently I can't write that way either. Now it totally changes the problem. No longer are they traveling at a constant rate here. Now the speed is increasing. At this point, they haven't stopped. Now they're traveling at a constant rate. And then again, they start to increase their speed again. So the difference between distance and time is when this were distance, these two might actually be the same speed, whereas now they clearly are not. This one is much faster than this one. So understand that by changing this variable, you change what the graph is saying, even though the graph itself didn't change. I have no more practice problems with you, so that's all the homework you have for tonight. I'll see you in class tomorrow.